Donald Trump's in a great position to win the critical swing states in the Sun Belt. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because it appears that Donald Trump is currently winning the Sun Belt. Yeah, that's right. Despite Democrats saying for years that the Sun Belt was trending Democrat and it was all over for Republicans in the future, despite what they were claiming for years now, it looks like actually no. Trump's actually about to potentially sweep the Sun Belt. Now, that doesn't mean that he's for sure winning every swing state in the Sun Belt. That doesn't mean he's going to win every state in a landslide. No. It just means, as of now, when you look at the current state of the race, Trump's the favorite in the Sun Belt. That doesn't mean it's the guaranteed favorite, but when you look at the polling and other data points, it becomes apparent that, yeah, right now, Donald Trump, more than likely, he wins most, if not the entire Sun Belt. And it's critical because, well, you look at the Sun Belt states, North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona, and of course Nevada. If Trump were to win every single one of them, all right, let's just say he does, at that point, he just needs a single state. Just a single state, and he's the next president. He can win through Wisconsin, Michigan. It doesn't really matter. He just needs a single swing state in the Rust Belt, and he's the next president. Hell, he doesn't even need Nevada to win. That's why it's important for Trump to, at the bare minimum, win North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. So let's take a look at those states, because if he wins these three in particular, more than likely he's going to win because, well, at that point, he just needs Wisconsin, and he's the next president of the United States. And let us start with North Carolina. Now, Democrats for years have been saying, North Carolina is going to vote Democrat this time. Ever since they barely won it back in 2008, they really believe that this is the year they're going to finally flip it again. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen. Now, there has been big question marks surrounding North Carolina, especially after the big hurricane that hit, but you look at the RCP average right now, and it's Trump plus 0.5, which on paper, it's a small lead, like, oh, only Trump plus 0.5, that's it? Well, here's the thing about North Carolina. The polling here sucks. Every single year, we get the same polls that claim, oh, actually, Joe Biden's about to pull off the upset in North Carolina. Hillary Clinton's about to flip the state. Hell, you could go back to 2014 and 2012, and the same people were saying the same crap. It never happens. Which, by the way, I don't really get why people just ignore how shitty polling in North Carolina really is. Now, on paper, the final RCP average, it wasn't that bad. Like, oh, it's only Trump plus 0.2. That's only a 1-point miss. Whoop-de-doo. Well, guess what? In the middle of October, they had it Biden plus 3. That's not a misquote. Just a couple weeks before Election Day, they found it Biden plus 3. Look at some of these polls. CNN, Biden plus 6. Marist, Biden plus 6. Survey USA, Biden plus 5. These same pollsters, they were claiming the same thing, even back in 2016. You look here, and the same thing occurred. In the middle of October, hell, even late October, it was Clinton plus 3. But at the very end, the polls became kind of all right. And that's because you have pollsters like Trafalgar posting Trump plus 5. That's the only reason, of course, actually funny enough, Survey USA, they also found Trump plus 7. But if it wasn't for Trafalgar posting that and Survey USA having Trump plus 7, more than likely this would have been a Clinton lead. And yet again, look at the individual pollsters. The New York Times, Clinton plus 7. Quinnipiac, Clinton plus 2. YouGov, Clinton plus 3. North Carolina polling is trash. And the only reason it doesn't get as much crap as, say, Wisconsin or Michigan polling, which, by the way, everyone knows, those states have garbage polls. The only reason that people don't talk about North Carolina polling is, well, for starters, the polling at the very end tends to be kind of accurate, but that's because you have a Republican pollster like Insider Advantage at Trafalgar posting Trump plus 2, Trump plus 4, when in reality everyone else is finding Biden plus 1, plus 2, plus 6. And secondly, even then the misses aren't as bad as, say, Wisconsin and Michigan. We all know their misses suck, right? I mean, Wisconsin, remember? Biden plus 17. You get some real bad ones in North Carolina, but compared to Wisconsin, these misses are tamed. So, anyways, the point is, Trump is in a good position to win in North Carolina because these same polls that now have him up by roughly a half a point, 1 to 2 points, these same polls back in 2020 and 2016, they were claiming that Clinton was up in North Carolina, Biden was up in North Carolina, and at the very end, then they herded towards maybe Biden plus 1, maybe Clinton plus 2. And when in reality, Trump won the state by several points. But even then, you don't even need a polling miss to have Trump winning North Carolina. That's a difference between 2020 and 2024. 2020, you had to argue, well, the same polling misses are going to occur. And that's why Trump's the favorite. Here it's like, no. In fact, you could argue if the polls are correct, at least the averages, it's a Trump victory. It's not like he needs a 5-point miss to win. In fact, he needs no miss whatsoever, and he's the next president. But even, or at least he's going to win North Carolina. But even then, you look at other data points like early voting, it is real bad for Democrats. Look at voter registration, even worse for them. So when you look at North Carolina, yeah, it could be closer, especially with the recent events. It does not scream to me that it's going to magically shift 15 points Democrat. At this point in time, I just don't see how North Carolina's going to vote Democrat. Is it entirely possible? Of course. But right now, the polls are suggesting Trump's up in North Carolina, and if the election was held today with every other data point, Trump would win by several points. Doesn't mean he's going to win by 5 or 6. No. But the bare minimum, I would say he's up by 1 to 2 points, maybe 3 points in North Carolina, which is more than enough to flip the state, or at least keep the state. But fine, North Carolina's only one swing state. What about Georgia? Well, look at the RCP average right now. And a Trump plus 0.5, identical to North Carolina. But yet again, just like we saw in Wisconsin and Michigan and other swing states, there's 1 or 2 pollsters clearly being outliers. Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. I mean, come on. Harris plus 2, Harris plus 3. Really? When everyone else is finding Trump plus 1, Trump plus 2, even Trump plus 5 from Quinnipiac of old pollsters, the Wall Street Journal, by some miracle, and Fox News, they found the race Harris plus 2 or 3. Now, Georgia's one of those states for years now, everyone thought it was gone for Republicans. Like, oh boy, it's trending away from the Republican Party. It's gone for Republicans. It's all over. Well, in the last year or so, it seems like Democrats, they've hit a ceiling in Georgia. And for whatever reason, the past couple of months, it seems like they're trending downwards. Now, in recent days, the polling hasn't been as bad for them, but you go to just a couple of weeks ago, and it was Trump plus 3, plus 4, plus 3, plus 3, plus 2 even from Cook Political Report. And the polling has gotten a little bit better, but it's still enough for Trump to win, and that's with some big outliers in the Wall Street Journal and Fox News. Now, if you go back to 2020, the polls in the middle of October, it was roughly a tied race to Biden plus 2. And you look at the individual pollsters, the polls actually weren't that bad in Georgia. Now, there were some pretty bad ones like Quinnipiac with Biden plus 7. Even Landmark, they had a Trump plus 4, which was a big outlier. But outside of a couple misses like from Monmouth, Quinnipiac, even Trafalgar, they had kind of a big miss. Relatively speaking, the polling in Georgia compared to North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, it tended to be a bit more accurate. In fact, the final average, they actually overstated Republican support by roughly a point. And that was because you had Trafalgar and Landmark. They had Trump plus 4, Trump plus 5. But it's one of the few states that back in 2020, the polls actually overstated Democrats or Republican support in the state. Now, there's a bunch of reasons why that occurred, but either way, you could argue we could see the same polling miss that we saw back in 2020. I get that. But I really am hesitant to say that, oh yeah, we're for sure going to see the same polling miss occur because, well, look at the average right now. And not just one poll. It's basically every poll since the middle of October, or I should say September. It's all been Trump leads, Trump +2, Trump +3, Trump +1. You had some outliers like Fox News and Insider Advantage, or I should say Wall Street Journal. This wasn't the case back in 2020. Like, yeah, you had Trump +2s, Trump +1s, but it was all over the place. You had no real consensus. It seemed like a 50-50 race. Here it seems like most polls, including Quinnipiac-ville pollsters, they're finding Trump with a 5-point lead, which is similar to that of the New York Times, to Rasmussen, to Emerson. They're finding Trump up by a couple points. You know, it's not like it was in 2020 where half the polls had a huge Harris lead, the other half had a relatively speaking close race. Here it's like everyone except 2 pollsters are finding the race either tied or a Trump lead. And it's entirely possible that the polls overstate Democrats this time around. It's possible because you have shit pollsters like Fox News and Wall Street Journal. They're finding Harris up by 2 to 3 points when even Quinnipiac is showing Trump up by 5. Quinnipiac. Now, I'm not saying Trump's going to win by 5 points, but if even Quinnipiac and Marist are finding Trump winning the state, even Cook Political Report, do you think he's going to lose the state? It's possible, but I think right now, Trump's in a good position to win Georgia, and demographically speaking, it would make sense. Georgia has a large African-American population, and we all know African-American voters, they have been shifted away from Democrats, especially younger male African-American voters. They are shifting away from the Democrat Party. Well, Georgia has a lot of African-American voters, and if they're shifting away from Harris, which, again, I'm not saying it's going to be a 50-point shift, but even a 10-point shift, you cannot win as a Democrat in Georgia if you're doing even 5 points worse with black voters. You can't. Mathematically speaking, you just can't. Unless you do way better with white voters, which I guess is possible, but I find it so unlikely that I think right now, Trump is in a good position to win Georgia. Doesn't mean he's going to win by 5, no. But I would say right now, he's probably up in Georgia. Now, if you look at Arizona, which is another Sunbelt state, yet again, you have a couple polls that have Harris winning, but it seems like the general consensus is Trump's up here. You have Emerson, Fabrizio, Insider Advantage, Suffolk. Yeah, Suffolk, a Democrat pollster, they have Trump winning here by 6. Alice Intel, Trump +1. Yet you have pollsters like Wall Street Journal, you have High Ground, you have Cook Political Report. They're finding Harris up by 2. And you'll go back to 2020, and people forget, just like North Carolina, polling in Arizona sucked. It was Biden +3. It wasn't like 2020 where in Georgia where, oh yeah, the polls were off by like a point. No, in Arizona, they were off by like 2 to 3 points. In October, these polls sucked. Biden +3, +4 in the average. And you look at individual pollsters, look at this. +7, +6, +6, +3, +4. In the middle of October. That's what these pollsters were finding. And if it wasn't for Rasmussen and Trafalgar having big Trump leads, which they're outliers, but if it wasn't for those 2 pollsters, this average would have been like Biden +3, +4, something ridiculous like that. Yet, right now in the RCP average in Arizona, Trump's winning. And if there's a 3-point miss, which is entirely possible, especially with High Ground and Cook Political Report pushing Harris +2s, well, that's a Trump +3 victory. Which I'm not saying is going to for sure happen, but Arizona polling, especially in 2020, was garbage. Yet these same pollsters are showing Trump winning Arizona. But even then, it's not just the polls. You have early voting, you have voter registration, all looking bad for Democrats. There are basically no positives right now in Arizona. The only positive they got right now is more than likely they're winning the Senate race, but even then, that's kind of expected. Like, okay, you win the Senate race, but you're going to lose Arizona for the presidency. And if you lose Arizona, well, your pathway to winning becomes a lot more difficult. Now, it's possible Harris could win Arizona, I get that. Same thing with Georgia, but do you really think the polls are going to miss in favor of Harris this time around? It's possible, I guess, but I don't think so. Because just like Georgia, outside of a couple pollsters, it's been consistently a Trump lead. Like, look at the polls beforehand. Outside of Bloomberg, you had to go back to the middle of freaking August to find a single Harris lead from Fox News. Outside of that, it's been all Trump leads. Outside of Bloomberg, Cook Political Report, the Wall Street Journal, and High Ground, it's all been Trump leads or ties. What does that tell you? It tells you more than likely, yeah, most pollsters are finding Trump with a lead. And it's entirely possible they're wrong, but do you really think for the first time ever these pollsters are going to overstate Trump's support in Arizona? It's possible, but look at their records back in 2020. Highly doubt it. So right now, I would say, yeah, Trump is probably going to win Arizona. And that leaves us with one swing state, Nevada. Now, of the Sunbelt states, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, I really believe this is the most difficult for Trump to win. For a bunch of reasons. For starters, it seems like in recent weeks, the Harris campaign has regained a lead in Nevada. Now, the RCP average right now is Trump plus 0.2, but you can clearly point to a single outlier as the reason that they're winning now. Yet, the Wall Street Journal, by some miracle, has Harris losing Nevada by 6. If Trump wins Nevada by 6, he is winning Arizona by a lot. But by some miracle, the Wall Street Journal has Harris winning Arizona. Yeah, you just have a garbage poll here. Outside of that, you scroll down here, and yeah, it's been a consistent Harris lead in Nevada. And the worst part for Republicans is Nevada's one of those states where you can have a polling miss in favor of Democrats. Yes, not just a 1-point miss like Georgia. No, Nevada's one of those states where the polls can overstate Republican support by quite a bit. It doesn't happen every year, however. Like 2020, Nevada polls were, relatively speaking, pretty bad in October. They were Biden plus 6, plus 5. They were garbage. But the very end, they were somewhat accurate because Trafalgar found Trump plus 2 and Emerson found Biden plus 2. But either way, Nevada's one of those states where, historically at least, they tend to have polling misses in favor of Democrats. One of the only states, by the way, that has that. I mean, every other swing state, like Wisconsin, like Michigan, like Pennsylvania, their polling misses 95% of the time favor Republicans. But in Arizona or Nevada, it tends to favor Democrats. Now, you have to be careful because it doesn't automatically mean there's going to be a polling miss in favor of Democrats, but I would say right now, when you look at the polling, it's not looking the best for Trump. But you look at voter registration, early voting, and hell, even the culinary unions, you know, the unions that really helped Democrats win Nevada, they're panicking about the election in Nevada. They outright said, yeah, if it was held today, Kamala Harris would easily lose Nevada to Trump. That's what they admitted to, like, Politico. Yeah, the culinary unions. If they're admitting to Politico that they're probably screwed in Nevada, there's a chance that they could be in deep trouble. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's the problem with Nevada right now. Voter registration, early voting, the culinary unions, it all sounds very good for Trump. But at the same time, the polling in Nevada right now, it shows the Harris lead. Again, the Wall Street Journal pulls a clear outlier, throw it out. But either way, I think the state of Nevada right now, it could potentially flip to Trump. I've been saying for years that it should be a Republican state. But for whatever reason, Republicans they just can't get over the hump in Nevada. Every year they get close, but it's not enough. They do a point better every single year, but every time they're about to flip it, it doesn't happen. Could have happened this cycle? Maybe. But even then, if you lose Nevada, it's not the end of the world because you just get Wisconsin and you win. I mean, that's all you need. And yes, it's nice to have Nevada in case something crazy happens, but more than likely, I would say Harris is probably the favorite in Nevada. But outside of that, she's in deep trouble in Georgia, Arizona. I think she's going to lose North Carolina. At that point, she needs to win everything else. She cannot afford to lose a single state in the Rust Belt. If she loses even Wisconsin, it's over. She loses Michigan, it's over. She loses Pennsylvania, it's over. That's why it's a big deal for Trump to lock down, at the bare minimum, these 3 states. If he does, more than likely, he's going to win. We'll see what happens. Maybe the polls overstate Trump in the Sun Belt. I guess that's possible. It can happen. But right now, I think Trump is the favorite to carry, at the bare minimum, 3 of these states. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.